is not working.
One of the greatest things about this program, we've been doing radio together for 25 years, we've been doing television together for 13 years, and we get emails from across the country from viewers and listeners, and across the world, where we get to interview celebrities and authors and companies. One such company was brought to our attention. The name of the company is Coro Global. I hope I'm saying that correctly. They are publicly traded under the stock symbol CGLO. David Dorr is the co-founder of Coro Global, and this is the intersection of gold, the oldest and only stable form of money humanity has ever known, and technology in the form of a payment system. And guess what? We get to talk to the CEO of a public company. David, how are you, sir? Good to talk to you, man.
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Okay, so first of all, break this down for us, because we talk about gold as a gold contract. And we talk about physical gold sometimes. So talk about the intersection of gold and technology, what you guys are doing there.
Yeah, so we want to give people a different way to think about gold. The problem is, as you guys are aware, dealing with markets, is that amnesia is very frequent. And what we've seen since 1971, the United States went off of the gold standard. And in that time, you've seen a dramatic loss of purchasing power with the US dollar. Now, professionals in investment space, they look at gold more as an investment asset class, and rightfully so. As an asset class, if you look at gold versus the S&P 500, since the beginning of the 2000s, it's performed about 500% versus 80% for the S&P 500. But what we're really missing right now, as we have central banks printing money with reckless abandon, $3 trillion added to the Federal Reserve's balance sheet this year alone, $17 trillion last year in negative yielding debt, is that we believe that gold's going to return to its rightful role as money, not just as an investment asset class. And so what we're about is democratizing access to gold and making it usable as actual money. And for us in today's modern world, that's doing it through digital payments. The same reason that we don't keep cash in our pocket, we use debit cards and credit cards, is the same reason that you're seeing a migration towards mobile payment apps.
Hey, David, let me ask you something, because first of all, okay, brilliant, number one. So what he's talking about, let me break it down for some of you, is fiat currency. And fiat currency first of all, the US dollar is a global currency. Everything in this world is priced in all goods and services are US dollar. Basically, it's based upon the perception of what our dollar is worth compared to the Chinese yuan, Japanese yen, when the euro was actually in favor. Long story short, because of when you create this much money, you can only do three things. And what I mean, and to David's credit, he was talking about the stimulus and printing dollar bills. Bottom line is, you either have to raise taxes, or you have to stop spending money as a government. Well, one of the two of those is definitely going to happen.
We're trying.
They're not going to stop spending money. They'll raise taxes. Or you have to try to monetize it somehow. Either way, David, if I'm not mistaken, you are banking on hyperinflation just like I am. And when that happens, that dollar is worth less, not worthless. It's worth less and less and less and less until it's actually, you need to have some other form of currency. Am I on the right track here?
Yeah, you're absolutely on the right track. And an interesting data point to share with the audience is if we look at M2 money supply, right, which is a measure of money year over year. In the United States, it's skyrocketed. It's the highest that it's ever been in history, over 20%, which, by the way, an interesting data point that accompanies that is that's the same amount the first year that Hugo Chavez was president of Venezuela. That's the same amount of the money supply increase there in Venezuela.
Well, David, let me show you something. If you go back to 1943 and you look at the money supply, the amount of dollars pumped into the system, which is the black line that you're looking at there, and then you look at the red line, which is inflation that follows it. Look what happened last time we pumped this kind of money in, okay? Look at where we are now. The black line represents how much money we just pumped in. So you bring up a great point, Dave. That's money supply.
It's a load.
That's money supply yearly growth versus inflation. Money supply is in the black, yearly inflation is in the red. So look what happens. Inflation always follows money supply. David, you want to comment on that chart? Hopefully you can see that from where you're at.
That chart's amazing. I mean, you guys nailed it. That's a perfect chart to share with everybody. And yes, so what you see happen is that inflation follows. And we're seeing that there's already inflation in lots of asset classes. We're seeing that in equities. We're definitely seeing that in bonds. I mean, bonds are scary the way that they're priced. And so when the Federal Reserve tells us, oh, no, inflation is not really anything to worry about, even though they want to run it hot, we're seeing that in other goods and services. So it's only a matter of time before that money supply creeps across everything that we need and impacts everybody.
Okay, now I ripped you off for all your time. Let's talk about your company. First of all, will you come back with it? We have to have you back on the air, like tomorrow.
Be my pleasure.
Honest to God. But let's talk about what you guys do, because I want to give you a little bit of time, at least, to talk about Coro Global. Coro Global, is the answer to all of this. Talk about what you guys are actually up to.
Yeah, so what we were looking at, unless somebody's been living underneath a rock, you've seen the enthusiasm around blockchain for the last decade. And there's a lot of companies that are looking at the potency of distributed ledger technology. But what's happened from Silicon Valley all the way to Wall Street is that a lot of the groups really haven't done the due diligence over the technology itself. So the first thing is that we're combining cutting edge technology. We use a specific technology which is called Hashgraph. And this is a revolutionary form of distributed ledger technology that is light years faster than what you see in the space. And to put some context for your viewers as to what that means, let's take Bitcoin. Bitcoin transacts at about 3 to 7 transactions per second. When you're looking at the Visa and MasterCard networks, they're transacting at speeds of 25 to 35,000 transactions per second.
So Bitcoin's slower.
Bitcoin's ridiculously slow. The problem with Bitcoin is that everybody got religious about it. If I were to ask you guys and say, okay, everybody throw your phones on the table and let's compare the specs of the phones and determine whose phone has got the best camera, the best speeds, and everything else, I guarantee you we would walk away with a winner. There wouldn't be a debate over this. But in the Bitcoin community, because everybody got into the philosophy so strong, and there's nothing wrong with that, they got blinded as to where the tech was. Bitcoin's 10 years old. It was only just a good first draft. And the technology's advanced significantly since then, but people have been blinded by that. So looking at the speeds, Visa, MasterCard, 25, 35,000 transactions per second, Bitcoin slow as a snail. We're clocking speeds of 500,000 transactions per second. That's the speed.
Now, what me and Russ couldn't figure out when we did Bitcoin is how do we get our money out?
Yeah, I know it's in there somewhere. I got to send it to someone and prove that I'm me to them so they can tell them to give them my money so they can give it to me. What?
It was impossible.
Yeah, that's a problem. And that's part of the regulatory landscape too, is that a lot of people rushed into digital currencies hoping to skirt the regulations. And the reality is that you can't do that. Money laundering is a very serious thing. It's very, very complex, the regs. We're a highly regulated company. We're triple regulated in the United States, first by the SEC, second by our federal license with the U.S. Department of Treasury, and third at the state level. And it's very, very important for our customers to know that we operate as a real deal money transmitter.
Listen, first of all,
yeah,
I'm all in. David, you got to come back with us next week. I think first of all, you need to, because I think we did a whole hour with him to talk about Bitcoin and why it is such a scary place to be. Number two, I want you to explain for us when we come back from the break what the blockchain is. Yeah, I mean, the blockchain is so far out of our purview, yet they say it's going to change every transaction. Yeah. From the way you buy a car to the way you buy a house to the way you buy, your medicinal ocular medicine.
Can you see the glaucoma flaring up today?
I think you need a glaucoma treatment. You need a glaucoma treatment. I can just tell. All right. We already talked about cannabis. Rob Davidson's back with us.
Segue master.
You like that? I'll hit the post. All right. Also, we got Tom DeLaCarlo later in the program. We wrote the book, The Divided Era. We'll talk about what's going on. We are 3 weeks away from the election and how that's going to affect your stock market. It's a Big Biz Show, nationwide, coast to coast, TV, radio. See you in a minute.